Government, Adamo, somebody almost so local government.
Adeleke has come to save the man of masses.
Now joining us to discuss the aftermath of the Osun elections and the reactions of the citizens of that state is our own senior correspondent iBrandTV, who joins us via the phone. iBrandTV, good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Samson, for having me live from Osun.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you, iBrandTV.
What's it like? I mean, Monday morning, fresh from the weekend where the PDP center Adeleke was declared the winner. What's the atmosphere like among the citizens of that state?
Of course, since yesterday, when the results for the elections were declared, when Senator Adeleke was declared the winner of the elections, the electorates and residents of Osun trooped out since yesterday, and they've been on the streets jubilating, saying that this is a much awaited victory that they wanted to express themselves 4 years ago, and it was not possible because there was a rerun of the elections 4 years ago, and they could not achieve it. Now they've gotten it right, and they're very happy and expressing themselves in jubilation on the street. The streets are covered since yesterday with umbrellas, with the flags of the People's Democratic Party, saying that now they have gotten it right this time.
Okay, looking at the polls, I mean, you were on ground. Let's start from the polls. I know we talked about, heavy security presence and all of that. What was the conduct of the polls like in terms of, the citizens casting their votes and the process of sorting, counting, and all of that?
Samson, the truth of the matter is that the electorates are still not participating fully in the process. Like what we saw in Osun and even in Ekiti before the Osun elections. In Osun elections, the people actually came out to vote, but not in their number as expected. Of course, if you want to place it side by side, the numbers of persons that came to the polling units to express themselves through the ballot, you will discover that if you have, for instance, some local governments like Elisha East local government, where you have over 73,440 registered voters, and you're having over 26,000 coming out to cast their votes as accredited voters, you will discover that with the results that we have, more than half of the PVCs that were collected before the elections were not used for the elections. That means that of the over 1.5 million PVCs collected, according to the Independent National Electoral Commission, were not used properly. Half of that number were not used for the elections because of the results that were declared. Again, we'll begin to ask ask ourselves, what is the determinant factor, or what is keeping these people away from the polling unit? Why are they collecting the PVCs and not using them? We don't know what is going on. And I think there needs to be more of sensitization on the part of the electorate, non-governmental organizations, and from the end of the media to make these people see the reasons why they should come out and cast their vote for the preferred candidate. Maybe some of them think the vote will not count, but we just saw the vote counting in Osun this time.
Oh, well, yes, of course, for the PDP, it is a time of jubilation, and we have seen the dancing senator dance his way now to the government house. But would you say there were cases of vote buying? Because we know that the EFCC was on the ground there, and some people would tell you that there were cases, but from your own perspective, how would you rate the cases of vote buying in the state?
Of course, on Saturday while the elections were on, there were skirmishes of vote buying. With some of the polling units we visited, of course, you will not see those buying the votes around the polling units, but they have their agents on the ground who gives directives to the electorate having voted, and they have seen some of the ballot papers who they voted for to give them directions to where they're going to collect the money. And in some parts that we also visited, where we saw crowds of people, they were just there sharing money, giving money to electorates, probably before they go vote, or when they finish voting, they come collect the money after they have voted for the political party that's distributing the money. The issue of vote buying, Bola, has come to stay in an electoral process, but we have to start fighting it now because it's becoming an hydra, which over time will kill the credibility of the electoral process as far as our country is concerned.
But Agboje, we saw the EFCC saying there were no cases of vote buying. What do you think is going on here? Are they covering up something?
The people who are buying votes are not coming out this time to in an open glare to start buying or sharing money for the electorate. They have an arrangement which, by our own investigation, we discover that the places where the money is kept is far from the polling unit. When they vote, they have agents who give them directives and sign languages on whether such electorate, such voters should be paid or not to be paid, and all that. There's this arrangement that they have where you have the agent of the political party representing the party on that particular unit, giving a sign language to someone who is a little bit far from that particular polling unit, directing the voter or the electorate who has just finished casting the vote to go to a particular place with a number to go and collect the money. You
know, talking about sign language, I'm interested in inclusivity when it comes to people living with disabilities. How inclusive would you rate the elections in Nigeria? Not just Osun State now. The fact that there are people who maybe have visual impairment, people who cannot hear. How inclusive would you say elections are in Nigeria?
This is the very first time where the Independent National Electoral Commission has included people living with disability in the process of the conduct of election. For instance, the Independent National Electoral Commission just yesterday also said that on Saturday said that they included two persons living with disability in the process of the conduct of election as polling unit officials. That is to say that they are getting being part of the process so far. There's one thing we observed critically in the process in this election, in the Osun election, is that of the elderly people, the senior citizens coming out to cast their votes.
Yes.
We saw some who are over 95, we saw some who are 100, we saw some who are 85. When you ask them why did they decide to come and cast the vote, despite the fact that it's stressful for them, they'll tell you that they want to be part of the process, they want to be a part of a change generation, they want to see Nigeria changing in their time before they join their ancestors.
Did they get the needed assistance? Because, you know, these people would need some form of aid in thumbprinting, in knowing what to do. Did they get that assistance?
Of course, a special queue was created for them to quickly cast their vote because, of course, you know that they cannot stand for a very long time, so that they can quickly do that and go back home. But in terms of helping them to do the thumb printing and all that, there are stealth ways of doing that by the Electoral Act and by the rules in the guidelines of voting by the Independent National Electoral Commission, which of course it states that it is a family member who would probably interpret to the elderly person or tell the person
where
what
to thumbprint
represents what and all that.
Okay.
iBrandTV, looking at the aftermath now, I mean, we saw residents trooped to the streets in celebration of the announcements,
especially in Ede.
Especially in Ede, that the PDP's candidate, Senator Adeleke, is the winner of the polls. On the other hand, we've not heard so much from the governor's camp. So I would like to get your thoughts, because I mean you had first-hand experience on on the ground. What has been the reaction from the governor's camp?
The agent of the All Progressive Congress, why the results for the elections were being
collated,
the fall in the collation center and the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Shogbo, actually was trying to protest some of those results that were brought by the collation officers from the local government headquarters. But of course, you know that in this part of the world, we hardly accept defeat, and you know what will follow. And the returning officer just said to him that if he has observation, he knows exactly what to do. Since then, we've not heard from the candidate. Of course, the candidate spoke with us on the day of the election, expressing optimism that he is sure he's going to win the elections, and he has also expressed his own reservations on the process, saying that in some polling units that the process is quite slow and that Inec needed to deploy more equipment and more personnel in subsequent elections. So
do you see court cases following through as we usually see in our electoral processes?
Well, one thing that is for sure in most Nigerian elections, even when some legal practitioners knows that you don't even have a case in the law court, they want to advise their clients to go and do that. Of course, we are all free to go and test the laws and test the results of the electoral process in the court or in the tribunal. But one thing that is for sure is that whoever is going to the court must go with evidences to prove his or her case. Of course, in this particular issue, the APC has not come to before to brief members of the press to say this is what they are going to do concerning it. But we are just keeping our fingers crossed, waiting and watching to see what they are going to do.
Okay, just as we wrap up this conversation, as much as we have people on the streets rejoicing, what's the situation like? Are we having any sort of disturbances in other parts of the state, especially where the APC supporters are, or everywhere is peaceful?
No, since yesterday when the results were declared, the jubilation has been peaceful. It has been organized. Of course, these supporters came out en masse, not mobilized. You'll see it right on the ground that some persons decided to come out on their own, just jubilating and all that. And we've not had crisis. We've not had people protesting against, or there being one incidents of clash between the both political parties who are at the forefront of the election.
All right.
Okay.
That's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much for updating us on what's going on in Osun State, Igboje Korea.
Thank you, Bolale.
And make sure you get some dodo ikire before you leave.
Of course, we'll do that.
All right, we'll be speaking with Igboje Korea, our senior correspondent right there from Osun State, where we now see the PDP candidate, Ademola Adeleke coasting home to victory in the governorship election. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll delve into further discussions. Please stay with us.
Of PDP haven't satisfied the requirements of the law is hereby declared winner.
Give him a